Alright team, this is the third time since last night when the video compression that I sent you all about, when it failed because the audio didn't compress correctly. I just did it again about a half hour ago. I started and I did a whole 20-minute video in the backyard of the place where I stay in Burlington when I'm here, Burlington, Vermont. I'm not in Montpelier tonight. And the battery did not have enough power in the laptop, and it shut off at the point when it started compressing. So that was dead. So this is the third time, and I'm trying to do it here while I still have sunlight. So I still have the light to do it. So here we are with the third attempt for the T5 video 2016 for paper one, which I'm going to keep for a while. So me being silly and crazy about having to record this over again is going to be out there for everyone to see for the next 2 years or whatever. But this will always be around because I never erase them. But this is for This I Believe, which I'm out of breath talking about that paper, out of breath explaining it, but it's not you all's fault. It's entirely my doing. So I'm going to do it like I hadn't done it before, like I hadn't done it 2 years ago. But why I like doing this so much, and again, you know this because I mention it. Well, you don't know it actually because you never saw the videos I was trying to recreate. Is because I like to take the experience that my live class had with this paper and use that. So, let me take a breathe and talk about This I Believe one more time. 3 times. Twice in the last half hour, last hour or so, and then once before, I'd say just less than 24 hours ago, about 22 hours ago. So anyway, This I Believe. This is an introspective narrative. It's a deep narrative, and the believe part in the narrative is actually a misnomer. It's really not about what you believe. We're not writing editorials here about why, I believe in God, I believe in Buddha, I believe in science, we're not writing about things that are wide and or too broad. We're not, because those aren't narratives. Those are actually editorials, and we're not writing in any editorial style. There's too much of that style going out nowadays on all the fake news channels, faux news, and MSNBC. All of them are guilty. Even BBC is guilty for doing this. And we're not talking about that. That's not where we're really going. What we're going is we're doing your personal stories. And these personal stories come off of what's called core belief. So when we think about how we see our lives, we often think that we believe certain things staunchly and solidly, okay? For a reason. So what is a core belief driving? Okay, so the narrative of your life is what the core belief is driving. So I'll teach you in a truncated fashion what a core belief is. It's not an ethical or a moral belief, and it's ideas that actually affects our. Let me start that again. It's not an ethical or moral beliefs and ideas that actually affect our core belief. Okay, our ethical and moral ideas all come off of the stories that we have, the core beliefs that we have. They're not the cause of our core beliefs. They're not the cause of why we have what we have and why we are what we are. So they're after effects of what we believe. They're after effects. Ethical and moral ideas are after effects of our core belief. And so that's where we're going to go with that. Okay? So let's start with, let's try to make that distinction. So you're not writing about something that is going to be ethical or moral, because those are not narratives. Okay? Those aren't narratives. Again, one more big statement. Again, I know you've read it already. I know you can see it in the paper, but it's something that works so much better when you can actually say it to a person or say it to people who are in a classroom with you. Is that the core belief that you're creating, the core belief that will drive the narrative of your life, is not ethical or moral. It rarely is ever anything like that. Those ideas are actually after effects of your core belief. Okay? The core belief is a central notion that you have about yourself and the way you respond to the world. So let's try to make that distinction. Okay? Your core belief is just one belief. It's not all your beliefs. And I'm gonna show you how the core belief is written. Okay, because it's written as a metaphor. It's not written as a direct giveaway. Because if you give away something like, I believe in God, and okay, first of all, you gave away something that doesn't matter that much to an individual who's reading your story, because it's so widely used, it's so widely believed by us all, or by so many of us, whether it's God, science, or nothing at all. Doesn't matter. It's so widely used that it gives no detail about your actual life and who you are as a person. It doesn't say anything about who you are as a person. And you want to say as much as you can about who you are as a person. This is not going to be all your beliefs. It's just one, and it's not going to be a declaration or definition that human beings are quick to use and apply to every situation. Okay, so a core belief helps you define who you are in the world. So the reason behind the things you believe, and even to flesh out the dark places that we all maintain. So it helps to throw a little light on those dark places without overexposing them unnecessarily, but it does help. So when you explore your core belief, you start the process of coming to peace with yourself. So by doing this for yourself, you find that you not only begin to accept yourself, but others as you begin to understand their stories. Okay? So what is written here stays here. I'm not going to share this with the Troy community. Normally, normally the entire case is this: if there's an editing group, it stays only with your editing group, and you're already sharing each other's stories, so you're on a level playing field. And in my case, in this case here, I don't have you all operating as an editing group because it's really hard to do with this kind of course online. So because people have different schedules, and it just becomes a big headache thing to juggle other people editing. You're helping edit your work before I see it and edit it myself. So the editing groups is the one thing you all don't have to deal with right now. So what is a core belief? And we'll read this. I know you all can read it, and you have read it, but again, it helps when I can actually just sit and talk to you and explain, and I'm able to talk about these things openly, and it helps me really generate these ideas. The reason why I did the last video, but again, I've had so much experience doing this, even back then. I had 6 years of experience. No, that's a lie. 4 years of experience teaching this, I believe, by the time I did the 2014 video. But I always like to add more and more thoughts and ideas and levels to these videos. I don't know if this one will do that for you. I hope it does. So as you already are reading, a core belief can be simple or complex, dramatic or lighthearted. A core belief doesn't have to be all-encompassing. In fact, it shouldn't be. Okay, it's just one belief that you hold. It's not all of them. So the term core, for our purposes, is not synonymous with ethical or moral. So the term core, and I should have actually, when I rewrote that, I should have put quotes around it. So the term core is not synonymous with ethical or moral, and I want you to understand that before you write me anything and then send it my way, and it turns out you did the very opposite that the actual directions are telling you. I'm just going to hand it back to you and say, do it again. I'm not going to fail you on it, nothing like that, because everybody deserves a million chances under the right circumstances. If you're in the military circumstances, you don't have a million chances, but this is not military, so you do have a million chances. Okay, I understand that. I understand it more than you might understand, and more than I've ever said. So be very specific. So we'll avoid beliefs that are too broad, such as I believe in love, or I believe in God, I believe in family values. Okay, that doesn't do anything for a narrative. That tells me nothing. You've given your value away, and you've not told me anything in the process. You've not shown me your human side, and let me decide. I think I know what that person values through the stories you are telling me. You're not giving it away. The stories tell themselves, and the value is there. Don't overindulge a story. I want them to get that I value being with my family and family. Okay, great. You don't have to overindulge in order to do that. Just tell the memories and the stories as they happened, as what they were, as exactly what they were, and not anything more. Don't overtell it, but tell it like it was. Okay, show the memory like it was, and show it like a movie. And I'll tell you in a moment what I mean by that. Okay, so Catherine, when she wrote parts of this, and I went in and rewrote parts of it, she wrote, my belief in being kind to snakes, however, comes with an interesting story, which is much better material for writing a personal narrative. Okay, now, so it's true. Now, remember, beliefs can be funny and weird. It's true, I believe in love, but that doesn't mean anyone wants to hear about it. That's Catherine writing that. So, no one wants to hear about it, and it's really broad. It's not true that no one really wants to hear about it. It's just that you're not making a statement that deals directly with a narrative. You're making a very broad statement. Love has so many different levels to it, so many different deep areas to it. It doesn't have to be physical. It can be purely spiritual. It can be mental and emotional. It's got so many different levels that we all maintain in some way or another. Or sometimes we couldn't maintain on a physical level, or couldn't maintain on a spiritual level, or could only maintain on a mental level. And it could be the love of chocolate. It could be the love of your baby child. It could be anything. But again, that's why that's so broad, so incredibly broad. So you want to avoid broad ideas. And I'm really not kidding. Don't challenge me on this one, because I want to know your story and not know your response to why everybody should believe the way you should believe. You're writing an editorial, and we are not writing editorials. Be careful not to give me that, okay? Because I don't want your opinion. I want your narrative, and there is a difference, okay? And we'll understand that. So we're going to be using metaphor statements. So a metaphor is a cognitive structure that allows a writer to represent an idea using a symbol or an emblem. So your first part will ask you to develop a metaphor that represents the core belief, okay, that you've chosen. So, for example, if you want to explore core belief in cleanliness, you could develop a metaphor like, I believe in Clorox, or I believe in folded hospital sheets, or folded hospital corners. Great. That's actually a metaphor. Now you're going to develop a story. Not develop a story, but actually develop it from memory. It's something it's totally true. You're going to tell us about that story and tell us why it is you believe in hospital corners. And you can jump right into it. Do not write, I believe in this, and this story is going to be about. Do not write that. I've had people do this. Do not give me a paragraph that starts with, this paper is going to be about. Please don't do that. I will go cat-eyed if you do that. I will absolutely go cat-eyed, and they'll light up in the dark if you do that. You'll hear deep growling. Don't do that, okay? Don't say this story is about. We're not in 5th grade. I didn't even want my 10th and 11th graders doing it, because it absolutely would send me mad. Not mean, mad, crazy. I'm already that. It would just send me. So don't do that, please. Write your metaphor statement and jump straight into the memory. Jump straight into the story. And I'll show you in just a second how to do that. So here's metaphor statements with a core belief. Okay? Metaphor statements with a core belief. Make sure you read all of the assignment, by the way, all the way through. I'm covering just about the entire gist of it, but go cover through. So, for instance, some I have metaphor statements that are this. I believe in working out. A metaphor is I believe in, and then the core belief. The core belief is working out. Okay? So, or I believe in midnight walks at the beach. Okay? Something's behind that. Great. Jump straight into the memory. I believe in snowboarding. Great. Jump straight into that memory once you give up the metaphor statement and the core belief. Metaphor statement, I believe in, and then core belief, snowboarding. There's memories involving snowboarding that you're really wanting to go after, that you really want to sit after, something that really helps you a lot. So you're going to go for that. Okay? So part 1 is metaphor statement. I believe in. Core belief. Tickling the cat's belly. I wrote that. Okay? I totally wrote that tickling the cat's belly thing as an example. So you're going to develop the true story that comes off of the belief you developed, or the core belief you developed. This will lead me to tell a story about a cat rescued from shelter that was abused animals. This would lead to a greater tale of why you believe the animal's life is so precious. These are the things that such a core statement might lead to, the memories that it might lead to. I'm not in your mind, so I don't know what kind of stories, true stories, are going to lead to. Okay? So again, this is just an example to give you some clear ideas. All right, so step 1, create your metaphor statement. Okay, and the core belief. One that comes with an interesting story. Don't develop a core belief that means nothing to you. You wouldn't develop it. It usually comes right out of you, so don't spend 2 tons of time trying to do this. It usually comes right out. Okay, step 2, write your story and keep this part 500 words, which is Courier New, double spaced. It's only 2 pages. Okay, so it's 250 or so pages on a 12-point font size. So Courier New, 12-point font, double spaced. It makes it about 500. 2 pages makes it 500 words or so. Don't count down to the last word, because I won't. But I do know approximately by looking how much you've got going on. So don't skimp, but at the same time, don't overblow it. Whatever you do, do not overdo it. Okay, because I don't want to read 3 times as much as I should. Okay, in order to get through this work. All right, so Understand the metaphor statement and the core belief. I believe in stained glass windows, which is great. It's great. I think that was a whole churchy thing that was going on. A person who put in stained glass windows and the value of that, and the stories, the beautiful stories that talked about that without saying which year he valued, but talked about working in a business that made stained glass windows for churches and other places. Beautiful. I believe in stained glass windows and the beautiful, wonderful stories that come off that. Some stories aren't necessarily so beautiful. Some stories are devastating, but yet therapeutic. And this does do that for you. This kind of assignment really does bring out the memories. It brings out things that you hadn't thought of in a long time, things that you've avoided sometimes, things that you just didn't think about. It might bring out something that's traumatic to you that you had to get on paper because you finally brought it to the surface and threw it out. Something your therapist wouldn't even do for you because it costs so much money per hour and they want to keep you coming back. Well, I'm not your therapist. I'm just your teacher. But at the same time, I want you to really work this thing through. Okay, if you have something that needs worked through, I'm the only one who's going to read it. And even if you were in my live course, the only ones who would read it are other people who have things that they need to work through and who are sharing on a balanced playing field. So you still wouldn't be losing face, because everyone loses face. All right, or loses face. I don't believe in losing face, not like that. You tell your story. You other people telling you their story as you're telling them theirs. They are telling you theirs. So, all right. So part 2 of the essay is how to use a showing voice, not a telling voice, and I'll give you a description between them. Make sure you read everything that I talk about in regards to what the showing voice is and what the telling voice is, and what those personal styles are. I'm going to go directly to the example. I'm going to talk about right now the telling voice. Avoid the pitfalls of the telling voice. To avoid the pitfalls of telling voice, writers must employ the opposite, the showing voice. The idea is that a reader responds better to a narrative if the reader can see the story in his or her mind's eye. The showing voice gives that reader a mental picture rather than only conveying plot points of a story. So this is achieved by using a descriptive language and by limiting the scope of the story. So a writer must focus on a specific scene to achieve a showing voice. Here's how we're going to do it. I'm going to give you the example of an example of the telling voice. I went to the movies today and saw X-Men Days of Future Past. I bought popcorn and a big soda. I enjoyed the movie. I walked back home from the movie theater. So all you're reading about above example are plot points. That's it. Nothing more. This is boring material. You will put your reader to sleep, and that is for certain. You will absolutely drive someone like me mad. But you wouldn't know that until I told you, so now I have told you. Those are plot points only. Those are plot points. You don't want to write in plot points. That's the telling voice. Very boring. I did this, and we did this, and then I did this. This paper's going to be about blah, blah. Don't want to do that. Okay? Here's the showing voice. All right? The showing voice. Detail, detail, detail. As I make my way out of the house, I grab from the kitchen table the keys, grasping them in my right hand. Stepping out onto the porch, I turn and secure the smooth golden doorknob, sticking my shiny silver key in and turning it to the left. As I notice the rich, deep blue sky and wispy clouds, I think to myself, I think I'm going to go see that new X-Men movie. I feel the butterflies of hunger roll through my stomach. I can almost smell the popcorn, taste the foamy soda as it slides down my throat. I decided not to take the car today. The air is cool and brisk. Or I should say I decided to not take the car today. Keep the tense consistent. I decide not to take the car today. The air is cool and brisk, and the birds are chirping and swirling. I can hear my neighbors' kids playing on the hill behind the garages. This is a fine day to walk to the movie theater on State Street. Okay, I wrote that entirely. That was me. It took me about a half hour to write. I also, as you can see right here, I made a slight tense error right here. I said I decided, but nothing of what I wrote is in past tense. I make my way. I grab from the kitchen table, stepping out onto the porch. I turn, okay, not turning, or turned. So I accidentally placed a past tense right here, when really I needed to keep it in present, which is what I was writing in. So even practiced writers who are pushing to get published also make mistakes. That's why we have to edit our work. And we edit and we edit and we edit and we get other people to read it. I don't care how old you are, how many books you have, and if you're Stephen King, and even he says this, his wife sometimes will edit through his stuff. And sometimes of course his publisher will edit through it too, but his wife used to do it a lot too. So even the best of us who try to be the best also make mistakes when we're writing, It's inevitable. You're going to do it. It's always going to happen, no matter what. You try to be perfect, and you will ruin your writing. If you try to be perfect overly from the start, you will ruin it. Okay? This takes practice. It takes work, and there's no stopping. I mean, no matter how much you write. So, this is a showing voice. Detail, detail, detail. I didn't give you any plot points. I want you to pay close attention to what this means. Very much close attention. All right? Stick with that. Pay attention. Okay, in part 2 of your personal narrative, you must come up with a specific memory to convey to your reader. Okay, part 2. This is a separate part, but part 2 is you're going to create another memory. But this time it's 15 minutes, no more. 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 10 minutes. Doesn't last longer than 15 minutes in real time, the memory itself. Okay, and you're going to use that showing voice in order to create that memory. So what you're doing is you're piling memory on top of memory. Okay, you've already created one with the metaphor statement. Now you're going to go back and dig up another memory, and you're going to write about that one. And that memory lasts no longer in real time, 15 minutes in real time. Okay, so there you have you're going to have a bank of memories to deal with, a bank of memories to go from. You've written 2 stories. This time you're really getting practiced in the showing voice, and that's the whole point, is to get practice in that showing voice. So you're going to write in that voice. Okay, and it's going to last no more. The second part will also be no more than 500 words. So again, it's the same as a double-spaced 12-point font, Courier New. It's 2 pages. Okay? That's all it is. And that's all you're being asked to write. Description of this memory, and you must see, just use a showing voice. Description, description, description. Detail, detail, detail. Okay? This should not be any longer than 500 words. It leaves plenty of room for remaining writing. Okay? And then there's the third part that you're going to do. And the third part is just that you're going to wrap it up. Take aspects of parts 1, you know, the memory you wrote off your metaphor statement, and part 2, which is that 15-minute memory that you wrote about, or no maximum of 15 minutes that you wrote about, and write a final narrative that reminds you of the memory you used, that you can combine them together if they fit together, and if they don't, and you decide, well, I want to use part 2 and extend that memory, and make that my final part. Extend that memory, make it go further, take out things that I didn't want in there, put things in that would have made it too long the second time, and create a really flowing memory. If the 2 things go together, join them. If not, you can use part 1 and extend part 1 as your part 3. You have an open field as to how you want to join these together, or extend them, or make it work. This is you taking the practice you've done in 1 and 2 and creating a final memory, a full-on memory or set of memories that are a narrative story. It's all true. Do not exaggerate. Do not give me lies. Do not pretend, because that's not therapeutic. One. And I say therapeutic because writing always acts as something therapeutic, whether you do it for life or not, whether you're doing it for just a moment. Narrative writing, I should say. Now, for other people, editorial writing is therapeutic, but you're not writing an editorial, you're not giving me one, and I will not accept one. Okay? No editorial writing, and I've explained what that is. Okay? I don't want anybody lecturing to me what they believe in. Don't do that. Don't make that mistake, because that's not what this is about. This is actually about you, and not the surface part of you, what you believe in. That's not what this is. No matter what its title, it's a misnomer. Okay? Because of the way we've developed it to dig deep into you and bring out who you are. All that other stuff is meaningful, but it's only meaningful in regards to your stories, not as a declaration of what you believe in, a declaration of what school you went to and why everyone should go there and why everyone should believe the way you're not going to give me an editorial, because I'm not going to read it and I'm going to hand it back to you. This kind of narrative is actually academic writing. Okay? Editorials are often not academic. They're just plain opinion. And it's great to know how to write an opinion, but right now, this is not where you're going to learn to write an opinion. Everyone and their uncle who's armchair quarterbacking thinks they have an opinion about something anywhere. Everyone. We all make that mistake. We're not doing that here. We're traveling deep here. Okay? That's what we're doing. All right. I love reading these. I just thought you all should know I love reading these. I love what they mean, what they are, and how they feel. You want to be able to say to your reader, to the person you're reading for, or the narrative you're reading, oh, I get what such and such is going through. I can identify with him or her. I know what he or she values. I don't have to know anything about his religious or spiritual scientific beliefs. His story is so much deeper and really gets me to understand. So that could be a response. I say his or her. it's his. Doesn't matter. I don't really care. I might have written that on purpose for a reason back when I wrote this part of the assignment. Don't know why though. Anyway, doesn't matter. These are the kind of things go through your mind when you're reading a narrative. Now, if I can dig it up, I will supply the live class version of what I did when I did part 1. But you'll notice that it's longer. It's because it takes a month for my live class to do the first part, to do the entire paper. Okay, a whole month to do the entire paper, 4 weeks, and they've got 4 parts. You all only have 3. Okay, and you do it in 10 or 11 days. Trust me, it's much shorter with you all than I've ever taught it. So you have a very short piece. This last part that you write is between 500 and 750 words. So 2 to 3 pages total, which would be the joining of parts 1 and 2, or the extension of part 1 or part 2, or taking a piece of the ideas that you wrote in both and creating another memory entirely. Not creating, but retrieving, going down deep and pulling out another memory entirely that you had, that you thought you weren't going to use, but you mentioned briefly in both parts. Pull it out and develop the entire memory. Make sure, again, no exaggerating, and use that, and that can be part 3. And if you think, oh, that's so haphazard, no, really, it's not. You're practicing that showing voice. You're practicing that detail. You're practicing letting people know what you value, but without saying exactly what you value. Your reader will know how to read that in and go, wow, I get the value of this person. I get what he or she values. I get what he or she wants. It's not nearly as hard as it sounds. I know this is somewhat of a long video, but again, you can pause it, stop it, keep it going, do whatever you want. This is the 3rd full time I've attempted this since yesterday. I'm hoping to goodness it works. Wishing you luck. Get with me, and if you have any questions about your core belief, ask me, please. Send me a note, text me, something. Let me know and say, Glennie, is this okay? Is this, will this do? Don't just throw it together, put together this whole thing, avoid the detail, avoid what I'm asking for, and then not expect me to say, hey, you might want to write this again. Because I will do that. Okay? But you all expect it. It's college level work. Alright, I hope this works. I know it will work. I've been banging my head, so let's see what happens. This is June 1st, 2016. This is for my T5 2016 Troy, but this will also be heard by other Troy classes as the newer video compared to the 2014 one, which I'll replace. And I hope this works for you for this, I believe, paper 1. Be well, team.